The Denver Broncos announced Friday afternoon that Garett Bolles' fifth-year option has been officially declined, meaning the Broncos left tackle will either hit the free agent market after this upcoming season, or he'll have to work out another deal in Denver. Joining me today to talk about what this move means for Bolles and the Broncos offensive line, we have Cecil Lammey from 104.3 The Fan, James Palmer from the NFL Network, and Chris Trapasso from CBS Sports, making his Broncos Beat debut. Chris, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Of course. Well, today was the official deadline for the Broncos to decide on and exercise Bolles' fifth-year option, but instead of taking the weekend to mull it over a little while longer, John Elway informed Bolles on Friday that they will not pay him north of $11 million in 2021, guaranteed for injury only. Before the decision was made, I know I heard arguments on both sides, whether to pick up the option or to decline it. So which way were you guys leaning, and subsequently, how do you feel about John Elway's decision?
I was always leaning towards this team not picking up the fifth-year option for Garett Bolles. Now, there's a caveat to that, and it goes down to Miami and what they did with Devontae Parker, former first-round pick who didn't quite play up to his potential. And Miami was like, okay, we're not going to fifth-year option you, but we'll give you an extension, a 2-year contract extension. We will make it, somewhat affordable, team-friendly. So if the Broncos wanted to do that, and if Bolles was open to doing that, I've always suggested, he improved with Drew Lock in the lineup. There is no doubt those last 5 games, we saw a different version of Garett Bolles. Can that continue this year? So for me, it was always no on the fifth-year option, but if you could sign him to a team-friendly deal, get him for a couple more years, Broncos might be open to doing that.
Bolles did play better down the stretch. The penalties weren't as prevalent when Drew Lock came into the lineup. Was getting the football out of his hands a little bit quicker. Going into 2020, this could be more of a motivating factor for Garett Bolles, more so than, hey, you're a bust, we're not going to sign you. If he plays well first couple months of the season, I think an extension would make a lot of sense for both sides.
I think the biggest thing about this, guys, also is nobody's ever really questioned the type of athlete that Garett Bolles is at the left tackle spot. You talk to people around the league, they're like, he has all the tools to be a good left tackle in the league, the physical traits. But when you watch season after season of mental lapses, you start to think maybe we can't correct those. And to me, that's kind of why you go down the road of we're not going to give the fifth-year option. Now, if he does play well, and again, he only had 1 season with Mike Munchak, one of the best guys around that can help you with your issues, and now we start seeing the end of last season trickle into this season, you're right, maybe extension, maybe some form there happens. I do think this is one of the more interesting players that were in that first round because he also plays every single game. He's never hurt. He's always available. And it's just the talent's there. There's always just been this issue with the penalties and the mental lapses that just probably drive coaches insane. It was just interesting that John Elway was so open about saying, we're going to wait till after the draft to decide on how we're going to go with the fifth-year option. To me, that meant we're picking a tackle. If we don't pick a tackle, we're picking it up. It was just interesting the way it played out.
So were you guys surprised when the Broncos didn't take a tackle in the draft then?
1,000%, especially the way that this draft fell to them when you had guys that at one point were in the conversation of first-round consideration, Josh Jones, Ezra Cleveland. You had the Broncos in the second round. I know we can talk plenty about KJ Hamler and everything that he's going to do for this team, but I felt at that moment that was a very good time to strike at the tackle position. But clearly the Broncos sent a message, not just with the Hamler pick and needing more firepower, but they like their tackles. They're going with their tackles. If Bolles can beat out Eli Wilkinson, he'll have true competition because last year Wilkinson couldn't really compete with him because of the Juwan James injury situation. But it definitely surprised me they didn't go tackle in the second round.
Yeah, and I think to see what even happened later, that in the 4th round, Ben Bartch won a few picks ahead of their 4th-round selection. I wonder if that small school tackle, also at the Senior Bowl, who really held his own, if that would have been the selection for the Broncos. And kind of to what Cecil's saying, when the Hamler pick came in, it was a little bit of a head-scratcher because I thought that's where they would target a tackle. But now I think Drew Lock is still pretty happy that he has more weapons in an AFC West where the Broncos see how many weapons the Kansas City Chiefs have, the Las Vegas Raiders have loaded up. I think it's a division that wants to have just a lot of fireworks in 2020.
I think we could talk the entire show, guys, about the tackle spot and what the Broncos' thinking was, because I think both of us would like to sit down with John Elway and go, why weren't you interested in Trent Williams? What was the situation, and why weren't you having any interest? You said the compensation was too much, but to me, I don't think that was too much for Trent Williams, a third and a fifth. and then you're not going with the tackle in the draft as well. Now, I know that this scheme, certain players don't fit it and certain players do fit it, but Cecil brought up Ezra Cleveland. Like, that's a perfect fit for the way that this offense is run. It is a bit of a head scratcher, and maybe it tells us that they like Elijah Wilkinson better than maybe all of us think they do, and Mike Munchak and company see something in him that they think they're comfortable with what they have.
They didn't take a tackle in the draft, but they did take a center. And I have to give credit where credit is due. James Palmer, for those of you who tuned into the Broncos virtual war room on day 2 of the draft, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Right.
But for those of you who didn't, let's just roll the tape back for a second. You are 0 for 1 for predictions this draft.
Thank you.
I'm going to try to, dumb this down for you a little bit, make it a little bit easier. The Broncos have 4 picks today. Give me one name of a guy who will be wearing orange and blue.
Alexis, I'm glad you dumbed it down for me. I did spend 6 years at The Ohio State University. So I'm going to go with Lloyd Cushenberry, the center from LSU. I think he would be a perfect piece in the middle of that offensive line that they have now brilliantly started putting together.
James, a hat tip to you, sir. You called it. You were high on Lloyd Cushenberry day 2. What does Cushenberry add to this offensive line?
I think we keep talking about the tackle spot, Alexis. Now let's go to the interior side. And I think if you put him in there, and he was a kind of a guy that, can come in and start right away, look at the 2 guards that he's going to be playing between. I mean, 2 really, really bright football players that I think are going to just expedite the process of him learning to play center at the NFL level. So that's why I just thought if you could get a guy that has the ability to start right away, and then he's between those 2, you get an opportunity to get an interior line with Drew Luck's athletic ability. If nobody's rushing up the middle, he can move away from guys rushing on the outside with the way he can run with the football. I just think this is a really smart play for Denver because of what you already have at the interior.
Yeah, they definitely could have taken Cushenberry in the 2nd round, and nobody would have batted an eye. Not at all whatsoever. In a power gap system, you bring true power. Now, I'd really want to pick Chris's brain because Cushenberry, not known as a mean player. I don't know how much that really matters at the pro level, but you do have some meanness with Dalton Reisner.
Yeah, you do.
Love you, Dalton, but he's mean. Graham Glasgow's a little mean too. Maybe Cushenberry can pick up some of that from those guys.
Yeah, I think having a mean streak is important. And like James said, to learn from these 2 veterans, now we can call Dalton Reisner a veteran going into his second season. Yeah, thinks like a veteran, plays like a veteran with really how nasty he is finishing his blocks. I don't think Cushenberry is super mean on the field, but his anchor, dealing with power, I thought was probably the best of any interior offensive lineman in this draft class. And at LSU, I love the fact that he played in a system, a lot of empty sets, 5 wide receivers, not getting a lot of help. Drew Lock really flourished in that type of system at Missouri. So the fact that Cushenberry had to call out protections, and it was really just those 5 guys in front of Joe Burrow, he's coming into the league a lot further ahead of most interior offensive linemen.